So this morning we looked at how Jesus suffered. We looked at Psalm 22 and all the things that were mentioned there. And then we also looked at how Jesus was hated, how he was spoken against, how they said very insulting things and false accusations against him. And then I also mentioned how that his followers, such as the Apostle Paul, how he was treated, how he was falsely accused, how he was slanderously reported that let's do evil that good may come. There was all these false accusations, misunderstandings. The way they framed things about them was twisted. And also how they did that with Stephen. They gathered up false witnesses. They accused him of what he was doing. It was obviously a twisting of what he was teaching. It was not accurate. And so I want to deal a little bit more tonight about this idea of how we should respond when we're treated this way. Because we're going to be treated this way. First off, we need to expect it. Just like the verses that were just read from John 15. We are going to be mistreated if we follow the Lord. It's not going to always be fair. And so you need to expect it. 1 John 3:13 says, "Marvel not, my brethren, if the world hate you." Luke 6, verse 26, he says, "Woe unto you when all men speak well of you, for so did their fathers to the false prophets." Think about how all the prophets were always treated. It's always been this way, where if someone stands for what is right, yes, there may be some people who revere them. Sometimes, sadly, it's after they're gone. It's interesting that while Moses was living, he got a lot of flack from the people that he was leading. A lot of grumbling, a lot of lack of appreciation. Then Moses dies centuries later. Here's someone saying, follow what Moses said, and that he foretold of a new one coming, another prophet. But Moses wrote of Jesus. And so now they're saying we're under a new law, and Moses actually foretold of that. Then they make this accusation, well, he is like degrading Moses and disrespecting Moses. Not true. So try to apply that to us, and just know that if you stand for what is right, you teach what the New Testament teaches, you live by that standard, you need to expect that most people are not going to like that. But change your mindset about it. Rather than crying foul and saying this is not fair, I don't understand why this is happening to me, I don't like this. Instead of going into defense mode or sometimes even whining mode, maybe it would be better if we change our viewpoint about that and consider it an honor. I believe we're going to do a whole lot better and fare better in that kind of pressure if you view it, it's an honor to be able to suffer for the name of Christ. Matthew chapter 5, verse 11, look how Jesus said this. "Blessed are ye, when men shall revile you and persecute you, and shall say all manner of evil against you falsely for my sake." Sometimes we think, well, since I'm not being hurt physically, that's not persecution. Well, persecution comes in a lot of forms. Okay? Yes, there is the kinds of harsh persecution where they beat them and they tortured them and threatened them and took their lives. I believe we ought to be ready and arm ourselves for that if that's the case. We need to teach our children. They may be the generation that gets the opportunity. We may be. That may happen in our lifetime. I don't know. I don't want it. But should that day happen, should our opportunity happen that we can be a soldier of Christ and die with our boots on, so to speak, what an honor that would be. It'd be the best way to glorify our Lord, to be able to lay down our lives for our belief. And we need to recognize that when Jesus said, "He that loses his life for my sake shall find it, and he that shall save his life shall lose it." So if it costs us our life, that's not anything that we need to be ashamed of. However, he did mention here in Matthew 5:11, not just what you might define as persecution, but he mentioned reviling. He mentioned them saying all manner of evil against you falsely for his sake. If someone accuses you falsely, paints some picture of you that is less than what you really are, you need to just know Jesus warned you of that ahead of time. He didn't. When Jesus tried to teach about becoming his disciple, he didn't paint some rosy picture that everybody's going to love you when you decide to follow him. He told us there is a cost, and he told us to count that cost. So recognize that people will say things that are going to be hurtful. Now, look at Luke chapter 6. Similar to Matthew 5, look how he says it here. Luke 6, verse 22. "Blessed are ye when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you from their company." Has anybody ever had that happen to you? "And shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake." Now listen how he says you should respond. "Rejoice ye in that day, and leap for joy. For behold, your reward is great in heaven. For in the like manner did their fathers unto the prophets." You're in good company. You're in the company of the prophets. But look to the reward. He says, leap for joy. Jesus knows what he has in store for us. You need to keep your eyes fixed on the prize and look to the end of what's waiting on you. So if you know what's waiting on you out here is far better than whatever people are saying to you that's hurtful to you right now, much easier for you to dismiss that and know that it's going to be far worth it. Because the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory that shall be revealed to us. That's what the Apostle Paul said. In 1 Peter chapter 4, look what he says in verse 14. "Again consider it an honor, if you be reproached for the name of Christ, happy are ye. For the Spirit of glory and of God resteth upon you. On their part he is evil spoken of, but on your part he is glorified." God is glorified when you do the right thing and you honor him when others mistreat you. You don't retaliate. You simply be what you ought to be. Now, there's no honor in being punished because you broke a law or because you did something wrong. I once saw a guy that got a speeding ticket and he was claiming, "I'm suffering for the cause of Christ." No, that's not suffering for the cause of Christ. That's you're getting the reward you deserved because you broke the law and now you have to pay the ticket. But doing the right thing, believing in the Lord, teaching what he taught, and someone hating you for that, you don't have any reason to hang your head. You can keep your head squarely on your shoulders and know that you can lay your head down without any regrets about that. In 1 Peter 4, verse 16, he says, "Yet if any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God on this behalf." Do we really believe these words? don't be ashamed of being called names because you believe in Jesus. Don't be ashamed of the gospel that He gave to you that is your salvation. Don't be ashamed of your Lord that died for you. He went through ill treatment when they stripped Him of His garments. And they treated Him shamefully whenever they beat Him and blindfolded Him. And whenever they hit Him and said, prophesy and tell us who hit you. Whenever they mocked Him and they hit Him over the head with a reed. And whenever they put the crown of thorns on His head and they nailed His hands. When they gave Him the mockery of the purple robe, mocking His kingship. He is King of kings and Lord of lords. But they mocked His kingship. The sign said, King of the Jews, but He was and is. Now, if people want to insult you for that, don't be ashamed of that. He endured that kind of shameful treatment for you. If we are treated similar, or someone calls us a name, nothing to be ashamed about. 2 Corinthians 12 and verse 10. Listen how the Apostle Paul said this. He had whatever the thorn in the flesh is. I don't know what that was. Some people debate that. Doesn't tell us, doesn't matter, or he would have told us the particular. But whatever it was, he asked the Lord to remove it. The Lord said, my grace is sufficient for you. In 2 Corinthians 12:10, listen how the Apostle Paul took that. No complaining. He says, therefore, I take pleasure in infirmities, in reproaches, in necessities, in persecutions, in distresses for Christ's sake, for when I am weak, then am I strong. How much better would we be with that attitude when we suffer for the Lord's name? Change your viewpoint about it. It's not an embarrassing thing. It's an honor. Another thing, not only expect it, but consider it an honor, but take it patiently. Don't be sitting here ready to defend yourself and ready to fight back and ready to retaliate, bear grudges. Don't be sitting there getting all in a huff, getting angry at the person that's mistreating you. That's not good for you to allow them to rob you of your joy. It's not good for you to allow them to cause you to lose your sweetness about yourself. Take it patiently. Then you're being like Jesus. In Galatians chapter 6, verse 7. Be not deceived. God is not mocked. For whatsoever a man soweth, that shall he also reap. So God will take care of what people do. He's got your back. Verse 8. For he that soweth to his flesh shall of the flesh reap corruption, but he that soweth to the Spirit shall of the Spirit reap life everlasting. Listen to verse 9 and take it to heart. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. I love those words because there's sometimes doing the right thing is hard. And there are some times where it becomes tedious. Don't be weary in well-doing. When you're doing well, you're doing what is right, and you don't see the fruit immediately, keep doing it. When you're doing what is right, and you're getting mistreated, keep doing it. Do not forget what your principles are. And do not forget who you are serving. God still is worthy of your worship. He's still worthy of your adoration, for your commitment to Him, your praying to Him, your studying, seeking Him. Oftentimes, whenever godly men were mistreated and in their hardest times in life, you know what they did? They went into the house of God and they worshiped. Because they knew the one who is always there and always steady. Hebrews chapter 10. In Hebrews chapter 10, writing to the Hebrews who had given up so much. And whenever these Hebrews who had been following the old law but then realized that we're under a new and better covenant, they gave up things, possessions. Sometimes separated from family because of their newfound belief in Christ. But now they're in danger, now that things are getting harder and harder. Time of spending in those hard things sometimes could cause a person to say, you know what, maybe it was easier back there before I'm living the way I am now. Listen to what he says about that. Hebrews chapter 10 verse 32. But call to remembrance the former days, in which after you were illuminated, you endured a great fight of afflictions, partly whilst you were made a gazing stock, both by reproaches and afflictions, and partly whilst you became companions of them that were so used. For you had compassion of me in my bonds, and took joyfully the spoiling of your goods, knowing in yourselves that you have in heaven a better and an enduring substance. Cast not away therefore your confidence, which hath great recompense of reward. For you have need of patience, that after you have done the will of God, you might receive the promise. For yet a little while, and he that shall come will come and will not tarry. Now the just shall live by faith, but if any man draw back, my soul shall have no pleasure in him. But we are not of them who draw back unto perdition, but of them that believe to the saving of the soul. When they became Christians in the first century, they didn't do it because it was the closest church to them. They didn't do it because that's where their friends went. They didn't do it because they thought they could get a better job. They didn't do it for networking purposes. They didn't go because that's where everybody else is going. When they decided to believe in Jesus, they knew they're going to get disowned by their friends and family and their countrymen. And they knew it was going to be harder on them on their jobs. And he says, do you remember when you did that? And you did it joyfully because you believed in what you did? Well, maybe among us, sometimes when someone first obeys the gospel, they're on fire for the Lord. They're digging, they're searching, they're trying, they're coming, and they're doing all that they can. And then somewhere along the way, that gets a little hard, and their fire burns a little dimmer. Fan that desire back up if that's you. Don't be weary in well-doing. Be patient. Remember why you started this commitment to begin with, and don't forget that. Know that it could be a little while. We're only on this earth for a while. The Lord is coming back. And whatever suffering you have is not forever. Keep that in mind. It might feel like a long time. You might want it over with. When will it be over? Just know God will take care of it. In the book of Revelation, we see how there are these souls who are beheaded, and they're under the altar. They were beheaded because of the cause of Christ. And they're crying out, how long, O Lord? And they're waiting on the justice of God. God pours out His bowls of wrath on His timing. He will take care of it. He will avenge His people. And His people haven't lost. They are more than conquerors. If God be for us, who can be against us? Let Him and wait on Him, wait on His timing, remain faithful unto death. He'll give you a crown of life. That is the admonition. It's the same admonition we need today, to remain faithful till the end. Take whatever ill treatment you receive patiently. And also, remember this, it could be worse. Whatever hardship you think you're suffering, there's probably somebody out there who may be suffering something that they might look at your situation and say, that would be far easier than what I'm dealing with. Keep that in mind. In Hebrews chapter 12, verse 3, when he was talking about Jesus and considering him, he says, "For consider him that endured such contradiction of sinners against himself, lest you be wearied and faint in your minds." And then this phrase, I alluded to this morning, and I briefly mentioned it. He says, "You have not yet resisted unto blood, striving against sin." What that means is, you're not bleeding. You're not dead yet. If someone calls you hateful because you believe in biblical love, you're not dead yet. They could have called you worse. They could have done worse. If someone separates from you and their company, or they twist words about you, it could be worse. You haven't been sewn up in an animal skin and sent into the arena for lions to attack you. You haven't been lit on fire after having oil poured on you. You haven't been sent into a hut for it to be burned. You haven't had your limbs torn apart. I mean, I could go on. You haven't resisted unto blood. You're still living. It could be worse. But whatever happens, whatever people say, whatever they do, you trust in God. Look at 1 Peter 4, verse 19. I believe this is an admonition that may help us whenever people may mistreat us. 1 Peter 4:19, he says, "Wherefore, let them that suffer according to the will of God commit the keeping of their souls to him in well-doing as unto a faithful Creator." What did Jesus say on the cross as he was dying? One of the words were, "Father, into thy hands I commit my spirit." You need to trust that God is the bishop of your soul. He is the Creator, and he is over the souls of just men made perfect. He is the keeper of your soul, and he knows how to preserve you, and he knows how to take care of you. You need to trust him in that. And you need to know that you are in the hands of the right one who knows what to do for your soul. Psalm 31, verse 5. Jesus said, and this is a quote, I believe is alluding to Jesus, "Into thy hand I commit my spirit." But look at Psalm 31, verse 11. Psalm 31, verse 11. Same psalm. He says, "I was a reproach among all my enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and a fear to mine acquaintance. They did see me without, fled from me." Have you ever had some people just avoid you because they know what you stand for? Verse 12, "I am forgotten as a dead man out of mind. I am like a broken vessel, for I have heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side while they took counsel together against me. They devised to take away my life." But what did he do? "But I trusted in thee, O Lord. I said, thou art my God. My times are in thy hand. Deliver me from the hand of mine enemies and from them that persecute me." That's what we need to do. Trust that we're in God's hands. Underneath are the everlasting arms, Moses said. Psalm 31, verse 24, same psalm. "Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen your heart, all ye that hope in the Lord." Trust in God, no matter what happens. When the apostles had been beaten and thrown in jail, and it's midnight. Their feet were in the stocks. It's late. They have stripes because we know later they got washed. So imagine how you would be hurting. This is not the kind of jails that I've visited where they have TVs and they get smoke breaks and they have libraries and they get ping pong tables. And this is not the same kind of jail that they had. If you read anything about the kind of jails in the first century, or in the prisons, much different, much different. The Mamertine prisons were dungeon-like, where they put the filth where people were about to die. But while in prison, what did they do? They sang praises at midnight. The prisoners heard them. What would possess someone to be praising God, just trying to do what's right, just trying to preach the truth? They got thrown in jail, treated that way. Do we have that kind of a mindset that we would be ready to be like them? Doesn't mean their stripes didn't hurt. Trust in God. Keep worshiping God. Keep faithfully yourself to God. Look to the reward. Hebrews chapter 11 and verse 24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. Esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt, for he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. Do you know what your reward is? Do you know the reward for you if you're persecuted and you suffer for the cause of Christ? Then if you know that, then you would understand why Jesus says you should leap for joy if you're treated that way. Luke chapter 6, verse 23. For behold, your reward is great in heaven, for in the like manner did your fathers and the prophets. Galatians 6:9, for in due season we shall reap if we faint not. You know what farmers do? They till the soil, they plant, they weed, they tend, they go back out, they tend again, and they keep doing it, and they wait on rain, and they wait on sunshine, and they keep working it, and they keep waiting, and they keep waiting, because it don't come up in one day. You need to be patient. And you need to recognize that you're not always going to be rescued immediately, even though you might want to. So no matter what happens, keep patiently waiting. But look what the crop will bring in. That's why farmers do it. Because they know the crop will come in and they will reap. In 1 Corinthians 15, verse 58, he says, therefore, my beloved brethren, be you steadfast, unmovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, for as much as you know that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. Stay faithful. Stay steadfast. It's not in vain. One thing that I want to encourage you to do if you're ever mistreated for the cause of Christ, learn how you should not treat others like the way you've been treated. Psalm 15, verse 1 says, Lord, who shall abide in thy tabernacle? Who shall dwell in thy holy hill? You know what really that question is about? It's about how can a person dwell in the presence of a holy God? Well, he answers it. Verse 2, he that walketh uprightly and worketh righteousness and speaketh the truth in his heart, he that backbiteth not with his tongue, nor doeth evil to his neighbor, nor taketh up a reproach against his neighbor. If your neighbor badmouths you, and accuses you falsely and gossips about you, don't return that kind of treatment. Especially, don't treat your brethren that way. Show the world how you should treat your brethren. If your brothers do treat you that way, don't return that kind of treatment. We of all people, if we're ever mistreated, will want to stand by one another. We will want us to have each other if the mistreatment comes. And what a blessing that is whenever you have good counsel. When you have true friends who will stand by you and will be a support to you and pray for you and be there for you when you need it. Don't treat others that way, but lean on your brethren and make sure that you have the right relationships with your brothers and sisters in Christ. Psalm 55, verse 12. He says, "For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have done it. I could have borne it. Neither was it he that hated me that did magnify himself against me. Then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man mine equal, my guide and mine acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together and walked in the house of God in company." I know David is speaking about this, and he had his share of that feeling, but certainly the Lord did with Judas. It is one thing when enemies of Christians mistreat us. It is harder if those who call themselves Christians act that way. But let's not be among that number. Let's never be of that nature that we're mistreating one another. Let's know we're on the same team. You and I are not the enemies. We are together on our aim and our purpose. Matthew 5 and verse 44. This is what Jesus said to do. "But I say to you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do you more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect." How I treat you should make no difference, or should never be determined by how you treat me. It is easier to love those who love me. It is far easier to be kind and to do my part with someone who has shown kindness to me. But anybody can do that. Even evil people do that. But you're a son of God. You are to treat people in the right way who have mistreated you. That's how you heap coals of fire on their head. And don't twist that into some kind of sick way, like I'm going to pay them back by kill them with kindness and some kind of like a, I don't know. Sometimes I think people think of it as that's my sweet revenge, as I'm going to be so kind to them that I'm going to bother them. No, it's not that. You are being like Jesus, that you are loving someone regardless of what they've done to you. That is the right way to live. It's the right way to be. Now, hopefully, the person's heart might be willing to be softened, and who knows, maybe they'll learn by your example and change. Not that you're trying to pay them back. Sometimes I've heard people say things like, "Well, I'll pray for you," and they say it almost like it's a weapon. Like, I'm just going to pray for you. Now, if you pray for someone, pray for them genuinely. Pray for them because you care about them. and their soul. I believe it's a better way to live. It's a better mindset. I think you'll sleep better if you have that kind of a peace about yourself. That I'm going to love my neighbor regardless of what he does to me. If he aggravates me, it makes no difference to me. I know what I'm supposed to do. In Romans chapter 12 and verse 14. Bless them which persecute you. Bless and curse not. Rejoice with them that do rejoice, and weep with them that weep. Be of the same mind one toward another. Mind not high things, but condescend to men of low estate. That is, associate with the lowly. That's what Jesus did. Be not wise in your own conceits. Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide things honest in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men. Let me clarify that verbiage. Some of your translations may say something different, but if you're reading the King James's, I'm reading that. I've heard a twisting of that kind of thing before, where someone will say, as much as lies within you, live peaceably. Well, I just don't have it in me to be peaceable with that person. Well, you're missing the point if you're reading it like that. What he means is, as much as it depends on you, live peaceably with all men. That is here's how that should be translated for you to understand. Is that if somebody is unpeaceable, don't let it be your fault. If you did something to cause the peace to be broken, be the first person, be the better person to take the first step to try to rectify that situation. Don't let it be because of you. Doesn't matter who started it, doesn't matter who's wrong, doesn't matter if they did it, but you be the one to be peaceable. Don't let it be your fault. It's not saying if you don't have it within you, that person's just so frustrating, I just can't be peaceable with that. Maybe there are people that you need to limit your time with, and maybe there are people you need to avoid. That doesn't mean that you do anything to contribute to the enmity between you and them, or the contention. Don't add wood to the fire. When you remove the logs, the fire goes out. Don't add anything to inflame that contention if it's not necessary. Unless you're contending for the faith and it's something that you got to stand for. If it's just a personal thing, is it really about winning? Is it really about being the one to win that argument? Or can you just, it's an honor to pass over a transgression. It takes a wise person, it takes the better person to simply say, much like, do you remember when David was at a very low point in his life? He's walking up the hill and he's mourning. And here comes this man, hurling insults, throwing rocks, cursing David. And one of David's men says, let me go strike him with a sword. I'll strike him once, I won't have to strike him twice. And David says, leave him alone. Maybe the Lord's bidden him. What an attitude there. What a way to look at that. How much better would we be better off if we just said, you know what? If that person is acting ugly, I don't know. Maybe something happened to them. Maybe there's something between them and God that I don't understand. Maybe I don't agree with it. It doesn't give them a right to be ugly. But let that be between them and God. I can't control them. But I know what I can do. I can not say anything else to drive a wedge deeper. I can not go try to incite more of that kind of feeling. Or don't do anything spiteful, or don't continue to bite back with my tongue. Leave their judgment between them and God. So don't treat others the way you're treated is an admonition that we need to be reminded. And another thing, finally, the way to respond to mistreatment would be to not give someone ammo. If they're accusing you falsely, and they're looking for faults, and they are. Do you not know that? Do you not know that there are people in the world who are looking for some fault in you, because you're one of those that claim to be Christians, and they've got this mindset, they're all hypocrites. And they're looking for you to do something, say something, be something that they can say, see, that's the way they are. But when they go investigating in your life and they're looking, you are a spectacle. You're on display, whether you realize it or not. Let it be that they find nothing. You know, one time this became very clear to me. We were at our neighbor's house, and these are our neighbors, okay, so this wasn't like our enemies. But they watch us. They know where we go middle of the week. They know the cars leave Sunday morning. They know the cars leave Sunday night. So we're sitting there, and they're like, hey, isn't it time? I thought y'all were going to church. And we said, oh, it's Thursday night. Well, they were mistaken on which day of the week it was, but they're watching, is my point. They know what you do. Or like the one kid who was watching the preacher who was hammering nails into a fence. And the preacher says, what are you watching? He said, I'm waiting to see what happens when the preacher stubs his tongue. Well, it's kind of like that, the way people of the world are. They're wanting to know how you respond. If they see you mistreat your spouse, or you snap at your kids in an unbecoming way, or they're watching how you are. If you go out to eat and they see how you are snappy with a waitress or a waiter, and you're not kind and you're not patient, or you're impatient as you're standing in line, or as you're driving, what's going to happen whenever somebody shows up one day and oh, you were that guy that cut me off and was angry at me? Let them find no ammo. Just like Daniel. They wanted to find something wrong with him and they couldn't find anything. Be like that. In Luke chapter 11 and verse 54. You know what they did to Jesus? They were laying wait for him, seeking to catch something out of his mouth that they might accuse him. But the words he spoke were true. So only thing they could say is things that are twisted. It would be worse if a person actually did speak untruth. In Nehemiah 6, verse 13, they did this with Nehemiah. It says, therefore, was he hired that I should be afraid and do so and sin, that they might have a matter for an evil report, that they might reproach me? People are looking. In Acts chapter 25 and verse 18, they did this with Paul. Festus said about Paul, against whom, when the accusers stood up, they brought none accusation of such things as I supposed. And it's interesting, Festus thought he would be able to hear this case. He'd be able to find some things against Paul because of the way people had talked. But he goes and examines, and I can't find anything. But all these people hate him. So he wrote to Agrippa. And then in Acts 25 and verse 27, he says, for it seemeth to me unreasonable to send a prisoner, and not withal to signify the crimes laid against him. Here it is, they have a guy in their custody, and they think he's worthy of death. But the man has him tried, and I can't find anything. That's the way you need to be. Don't give them what they're looking for. In 2 Samuel 12, verse 14. Nathan said to David when he sinned with Bathsheba, howbeit, because by this deed thou hast given great occasion to the enemies of the Lord to blaspheme. I don't want to do anything, say anything, or to cause someone to refuse to come to worship or to a Bible study or to be open to that discussion when they're ready because I've mistreated them or I've acted in some way that was not Christ-like. Proverbs 14:34, righteousness exalts a nation, but sin is a reproach to any people. If you have sin in your midst and the community knows about it and you haven't repented, you hadn't changed that, that's not good. It dishonors the Lord. Don't be a stumbling block to someone receiving the gospel. That's why I think we always need to be humble. If we have made a mistake, be willing to admit it. Like the sister did, it was said in the prayer. Have that kind of a heart to be willing to say, I'm sorry. Acknowledge it, and then try to do better. That's the kind of heart of humility we need to have. Proverbs 19:26, he that wasteth his father and chaseth away his mother is a son that causeth shame and bringeth reproach. Doing anything can bring shame on the name. You don't want to give shame to your family name. 1 Peter 3:16, having a good conscience, and whereas they speak evil of you as evildoers, they may be ashamed that falsely accuse your good conversation in Christ. For it is better if the will of God be so that you suffer for well-doing than for evil-doing. So even though they falsely accused you, but then they get to see the real you and they say, you know what? I was wrong about you. You've done nothing but show kindness to me. That is the way that you're going to be more effective and more influential upon the world around you. I hope I've encouraged you today to remain steadfast and faithful, even in the midst of false accusations, hurtful comments. Be prepared that it's going to happen, but keep your sweetness about you. Keep treating people the way you ought to be treated. Maintain your faith between you and God. Look to the reward. There's a reward in being a Christian. If we're not trying to tell you that becoming a Christian means that everyone will like you and you won't have any problems and everything will be perfect in your life. Jesus says there will be difficulty. But you've got a reason to keep doing right whenever you have that difficulty. Believe and be baptized if you haven't. We want you to be a part of the family with us. If you have, keep your eyes fixed on the goal, regardless of what happens. Stay faithful. Whatever your need is, won't you come while we stand as we sing.